Hi, everybody. I am so happy to present to you Ms. Lindsay Martin Ellis today. She's a human design expert, an energy expert, and I can't wait to see what today reveals and how it unfolds. So Lindsay, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and serve this beautiful community.
Yeah, happy to be here. Can you share a little bit with our audience of what it is that you do and how you came to be and do that?
Yeah, that's a loaded question these days. Ultimately, I generally like to work with women. I do work with men as well, but really because I feel like we've been kind of fit into this model that anatomically and physiologically doesn't necessarily work with the female body in terms of just cyclical nature, the way that our hormones, regulate. And I often find that we feel like we're failing and we're behind and we're constantly just, feeling like we're not successful. And that's when the burnout comes in. So I really work with women on an energetic level to really connect to intuition, to connect to inner being, to really listen to the body wisdom first, because we carry a lot of wisdom within us, and then allow the logical mind and then allow the external support to really come in to make decisions. So this is really about business and life and relationship, and really how to tune in, how to stop beating ourselves up and feeling like something's wrong with us. And to really start to love our wholeness, right? And to really start to work with our energy instead of against it, which unfortunately, again, is the model that we've been put in, which is this 24-hour cycle, 24-hour cycle, 24-hour cycle, and really just honoring the ebbs and flows of life and of how our bodies are created. And that really helps us to honestly have a lot more time for what we love, a lot more time with self, to be able to work smarter and not harder. So I am a coach. I offer group programs, private programs as well, really on full body vitality, aliveness, really tapping into our life force, because we are here to feel good. We are here to love what we do and to find the wonderment and the play and the joy in work, in life, in business, and how that ripples into, our everyday life. So just finding joy and pleasure in what can be laborious, right? Or what would be considered work is really where I thrive, and really what I love to help women with.
Yeah, energy work is definitely where I found the joy in the journey. Being in flow, being connected to myself and leading from that place. So I love what you do. Yeah. How does human design fit into all this?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Human design. How about we start with that? What is human design?
Yeah, it's really interesting too, because your question was, how did you get here? And ultimately, I'll just share briefly how I discovered human design. I actually used to be an environmental engineer in a very male-dominated industry, and was starting to actually have physical manifestations of dis-ease in my body. And that was from overworking and really from showing up in ways that didn't support my body, my heart and my soul. And it was about 5 years ago, I was in this corporate role and decided to become my own boss, to become an entrepreneur. I really started to tap into my health and reclaim sovereignty over my body. And in that, started to really open up on more of an energetic level, which then opened me up on a more spiritual level. And so it really just kind of kept blossoming into this new realization around how everything works and how, how to again, work with our bodies. So with that, of course, as an entrepreneur, as many of us know, we love to learn things. We love tools. We love to learn more about ourselves. We love to learn more about our clients. We love to learn more about how people communicate, how we show up in relationship. One of my mentors gifted me a human design session a few years ago. And when I tell you, it felt like such relief in my body. Like I can see you're probably like, oh, I kind of probably can, right? When you just feel seen, you feel heard, you're like, oh, nothing's wrong with me. This is how I truly am. Like, this is how I'm meant to show up in the world. I knew that I wanted to learn more. So really it started from this, because of course, engineer mind, I really love to have a solid foundation. I really love to know things and I really love to research. So I just became an avid researcher and really just became obsessed with understanding, like, what is this tool?
Yeah.
And then became certified for my own, like, had no desire to turn this into a business. And then I started having more fun. I started gifting sessions to friends and colleagues, and then it became part of my work. And now people are coming to me, right? It's still just a part, an aspect of my business, but people want it. And I'm finding, and then I'll get into what human design is. I'm finding in this time, in this moment in history, people want more. People want hope. People want to know there's got to be more to this life. Like, there's got to be more to this business. There's got to be more to how we, like, this old paradigm of doing things, right? So that human design is a tool, and we can get into the woo later if you want. It's up to you if you think your community would like it. But really, it's a comprehensive tool. It's really a synthesis of ancient wisdom and modern science based on planetary alignment of when we came into this world, which is our soul's blueprint. So it really offers something that's called a soul's blueprint that allows us to really understand innately what's inside of us and what brings us joy and what lights us up, and actually what allows us to energetically show up in our life. And a lot of times we're performing tasks in business that don't serve us, that don't energetically support us. We're in roles that completely don't energetically support us. And so this provides a really solid baseline of, no wonder I'm feeling burnt out. No wonder I'm actually not enjoying this task, because I energetically, I'm not supposed to. Like, I'm actually not, this doesn't allow me to thrive. So I think it really just provides a baseline of, oh, wow, all those times I really didn't want to do that. It's because it's innately who I am, not because I'm just not wanting to show up or being lazy, right? Like all of the words that we start to shame ourselves with.
Yeah. I so I'm a Manny Gen before we get into the original types. And I noticed that I was always like happily, authentically in something 24/7. I had this full drive, right? And then this thing that I loved, all of a sudden I hated and it hit the wall and crash. And so understanding my own human design and my profile and the 2/4 totally makes sense. So when you said, I was like, oh, this makes sense. This is why I am the way that I am. And now I can build around the season of push, rest, pull back, into my business, which makes it all flow much more easy and more enjoyable.
Yeah.
So, yeah. How do you support your clients? And yes, we do want to get into the woo. This week is Embrace the Woo. That's the title of this week. So,
perfect.
Yeah, because
Perfect.
I was a skeptic. I actually not just was a skeptic. I was anti before. I thought it was of the devil, with the doctrine that I grew up under, like, you don't allow anything like this in, the devil's going to get into you. And then I just started to get curious, but I was skeptical. And now I'm like in. I jumped into the deep end. So thank you for being here to facilitate, this learning journey for our audience here who may find themselves in anti or skeptical or curiosity somewhere along that journey. How do you use human design to support your clients in running their businesses or in setting themselves up in life and in business up for success?
Yeah. And I also want to thank you, for presencing, right? Like, I feel like the world is kind of comprised of a third of people who are like totally just, open, and then a third who are kind of like set in what they know to be true, right? And then a third that are kind of in the middle. And so I think it's kind of fun right now, because this is a time when I'm noticing people are more like, well, this isn't really working and I'm not really feeling good, so I might as well try something else on. So I absolutely can relate to your share. And, it's like, to me, it's like what feels like truth in our unique individual body is what's going to allow us to have the most joy and the most expansion in our experience. So it's like, if we're going to go with a paradigm, if we're still not feeling good and we're set in our ways, it's just maybe perhaps an opportunity to just try some things on from a place of curiosity. Because the reality is what I believe is, there is one universal truth, and we all embody a sliver of that truth, right? We all embody based on our own experiences and, energetically, ancestrally, epigenetically. And that's what makes us all unique. And so with human design, what I would recommend for anyone is really looking at type, because that really starts to provide an overarching theme of really what we're here to do and how we're meant to show up, and how through all of the collective, which for me, we all are made up as this living, breathing organism of the planet, how we can all actually tap into our innate gifts and work together and leverage each other again, right? We're in this paradigm now that really wants us all to believe the same doctrines, right? Believe the same ideologies, show up the same way. We can see it now more than ever. It's like, if you don't believe this, then you're wrong, right? Or you're crazy, right? Like, we can see the polarity, we can see the divisiveness. And so just recognizing how unique all of us are and how we're meant to show up and what our experiences are and what we get to speak into the world is really important.
Yeah.
So you talked about being a manifesting generator. So there's 5 main types. I'm happy to get into them in a bit more detail if you think that's where the community would want to go. So one piece that I do want to mention, as you were talking about how I bring it into my work, is there's a lot of information in a human design body graph. And what's fascinating. Yeah. So what happens is people are like, I'm reading and oh my gosh, and I get overwhelmed, and then they just like don't want to look at it ever again. So I teach a lot of embodiment, right? Like the intention is to for me, be the divine in action, which means to live in this body, right? And energetically be able to show up. And so we have people who are either so in their body that they're not connected, right? They're just like stuck in their ways and stuck in the logical mind.
Yeah.
Then we have people who are like floating in the ethers, who like aren't in their body, and it's not serving anyone because we're here to be on this planet. And then we have some people in the middle.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead.
No. Yes.
With the human design types, I find that what happens is people learn about their body graph, they learn about human design, and then that's what I did. It's like, I want to read everything. I want to know it all. I want to know it all now, and I want to make my changes. And it can be quite daunting. And what I know to be true is, when we actually can receive the information and embody who we are, everything starts to come online in a way that, like, on a cellular level. And so the mind doesn't necessarily need to know it all. Like, you're actually receiving it. It's like this remembrance inside every one of your cells. And so my first piece is just to start with the type, because there's so much information in your type in human design. And again, we've been programmed to believe we need to do it now. We need it all. We need it right this second. And that's actually going to oftentimes create a lot more discord within, right? Because when we're reprogramming, when we're coming home to self, when we're in that awakening and remembrance, and I just had a brain fart. What was I going to say with that? Coming back to self. I don't know. It'll come back to me. But, when we're in this, space of remembrance, the mind doesn't need to know. The mind comes after the fact. That's what I wanted to say. So with that, we have 5 types. I'll start with manifestors.
Yeah. Just before we jump into them, do you have a go-to resource that you share with your clients of, like, go here to find out your type? Or to, like, a go-to resource to learn, once you know your body graph, you have your body graph, where you can go to it and look up certain things like your profile, your authority, your strategy, to learn and go deeper on your own? What are your top go-tos?
Yeah, thank you for presenting that. I actually have my go-to book right down here, actually from my teacher, Karen Curry Parker. She actually studied under Ra Uru Uru, who was the gentleman who received the download in 1987. So supernova in 1987, star exploded, and the consciousness of the planet received the codes of the human design body graph and blueprint. He was the only one who consciously received it, was in Ibiza, Spain. 2 weeks later, like literally came up with the whole human design blueprint. So her book, she has a book called The Human Design Activation Guide. It's so simple. It really starts to explain what human design is, what's actually happening on the planet right now, and how all of this ties together. Really, again, getting into that curiosity piece, and then starts to go in and showing the body graph and really showcasing the different aspects of the human design body graph, so you can start to just get a sense of how everything's connected, again, to that ancient wisdom and to that modern science. And then mybodygraph.com is a free resource. Sounds like you're familiar with it. There's several. I love it because it's interactive and it is free. So you do need to know your birth location. You need to know your birth time, and of course your birth date, in order to get the most accurate. Of course, not everybody knows their birth time. Just get as close as possible. And you can also upgrade if you'd like, and there's a little bit more info, but really it provides a really solid, baseline, cohesive, comprehensive information of where to start with the body graph.
Awesome. Now, questions I often get asked that I'm not certified in this. I work with my clients with the little bit that I know and as I'm learning. But what if they don't know the exact time of their birth? I know you said get as close to it. Is it within the hour there's accuracy? Because this is hour and minute. For your time of birth, it's hour and minute. What's your suggestion around that, or what's the error factor that you've seen?
It really just depends. And what I often would do, because once you have your information, you can actually tweak it. So like if you say, I don't know if it was 2 p.m. or if it was 3 p.m., you can actually just do both and maybe do 2:30 p.m. And you actually will find that you'll actually find, oh, nothing's really changed. So it doesn't matter. If you see a shift in maybe like an opened or closed energetic center, generally your type isn't going to change that drastically. So if you're in the ballpark, you can tweak it and play around. And then if there are any differentials, you'll feel like, oh yeah, this feels like me and this doesn't. And I'm just going to go with this, and it feels what feels true for me right now. Right. So it's that intuitive piece that you get to tap into.
I love that. Thank you so much. That was very helpful. The other question that I get asked is along the similar lines is the accuracy of the location. So I was working with someone the other day and they wanted to run their own graph, and they're like, well, does it have to be? So I guess in London, they have provinces and then they have like neighborhoods, right? Like how accurate? I was like, just put in London and see what happens. I don't know. Was that good advice? Or to get down to the neighborhood?
On my body graph, I mean, provinces, I mean, there's a lot of specifics in geographic location. So I would say if you have it and which most people do, type the city, type the province in there, because it will actually show you. And I've even noticed different spellings. Like I know I did a reading for a client in India, and she was like, oh, it's spelled 2 different ways. And I tried it and it actually was in there twice. So I really find that it's pretty comprehensive in terms of, getting as much detail as possible. But again, that's where you can try some things on. Like, obviously not everybody, there's people who are adopted and may not have their birth information and things like that. And so doing your best to kind of get a gauge and then seeing, because there's so many, there's a lot of moving parts when it comes up with exactly how everything is processed through. So it's just kind of a trial and error. And that's what we want to do as humans, right? We're like, I don't want to mess this up. But again, you can. And when you see it, you'll know like, oh, wow, this feels like me. I've never had a reading with someone where they're like, you're crazy. I have no idea what you're talking about. It's like, yes, this feels like me. Okay, let's keep going.
So what I'm hearing you say is get as specific as you have specificity, And you'll know because it'll feel aligned. It'll feel like someone just read back to you that has known you your entire life. Right?
Yeah, and I have my body graph open. I don't know exactly. I think it's under I don't know exactly where it is, but somewhere in account, it'll actually, you'll be able to go in and you can change the date, you can change anything. And so again, you can actually go in and then have it pull it through, and then, you know, just take a screenshot and then pull it up with the next time if you feel like it's 30 minutes off or something. But if it's like down to the minute, it's not going to be like all of a sudden you're going to have this completely new chart and it's going to skew everything. So that should put some people at ease.
That's super helpful. Okay, let's get into the 5 energy types.
Yeah, the 5 energy types. So you said you're a man, Jen. I am a generator, so that'll be fun to talk through. But the first type is the manifester. And let's see, how much do I want to get into? So there is not a generative, the sacral center is not defined in manifestors, which really means that there's a lot of ebbs and flows in energy. A lot of manifestors are here to actually be the innovators. They're here, they actually like come up with the idea, but they don't actually do the work, right? A lot of manifestors like passive income, right? Like they really like their rest. Rest is really important, and really honoring, you know, like working a 9 to 5 or showing up the exact same way every single day for a manifestor. Coming up with an idea and then seeing it through execution is the quickest way to burn out for a manifestor. So really just recognizing that there's a lot of ebbs and flows in how you show up. A lot of manifestors are not the best team players always, like to work alone. So that is, I would say that is definitely an area where when people understand, right, how manifestors work, because what happens is people can sometimes get in the way of a manifestor who's really like channeling that idea. So a lot of times people will actually obstruct and create hindrances and actually create more burnout for the manifestor if people are kind of in the way. So that's where communication is key, of, you know, informing people what you're up to, but not asking for permission, and really allowing the space to be able to kind of go inward and create. Any questions with that one?
No.
Okay.
Some parts of it resonate, so I'll have questions later when we get to
that. Yes. So I'm a generator. So you could even tell by energy, like this is me all the time. I'm very vibrant. I have a lot of energy when I'm lit up by my work, which I love human design. I love being with people. So this type of setting is really actually what engages my life force and really creates that generative energy for me to keep moving. This is where I'm most inspired. This is where I love to live. And the biggest thing with generators is we're really here to light up the world through our work. So for me, a great example, I was in an engineering role that wasn't serving me. Was I successful? Was I making great money? Yes. But I was so unfulfilled and my body started to break down and the people pleasing was at its, you know, height. And I really started to despise just how I was being in the world, how I was showing up. Like I didn't want to wake up in the mornings, right? So generators are meant to be very active. I have a standing desk. I take a lot of breaks. So sitting in meditation, I do, but after I move my body, like there's a lot of movement that happens for me when I hit the pillow at night. I am exhausted and I fall asleep and I wake up feeling recharged. And that means that I should be going to sleep feeling that way, because that means that I exhausted all that generative energy inside. When generators stay stagnant, right, it stays inside and it starts to manifest as frustration or anxiety. And so not expelling all of that energy throughout the day actually ends up creating a lot more inner turmoil. And that's when people are like, what's wrong with me? And then people think they need more rest when really it's actually creating and perpetuating more of the issue. Yeah.
I love exhaustion because it is a physical response. It's the body communicating that something is out of alignment. And it's just a matter of getting curious to see where. And so I love that you brought that up in different ways for the manifester and the generator. The exhaustion in the body is speaking different things. So I love that. And understanding your type, and you can interpret kind of where that misalignment is. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Burnout shows up in different ways. And this is where it's like really tuning in. And by 9 o'clock, I'm like, I can barely keep my eyes open. And I know that I'm like, okay, and so burnout will show up in different ways for different types. And that's where starting to listen is so important. It's really about listening and not comparing yourself to other, because I have manifestors, projectors, and reflectors who look at me, probably look at you and think, how do you do it, and compare. And the reality is that's not their role. Like, my role is to be the life force worker of the world in terms of like what fills me up. I love to work when I'm lit up by my work. That's not every single type.
The queen bee.
Exactly.
So
I love
quick
that.
question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does each energy type have a consistent defined or undefined center based on their energy type?
Yes.
I heard you say that manifestors have the sacral undefined. So all manifestors have the sacral undefined? Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And generators, it's defined. I'm looking at my chart right now. It's helpful for me because I'm a visual person. So generators, it's a defined sacral center. And there is no defined motor center. There's 4 motor centers, but we don't need to get into all that. There's no motor center connected to the throat. For manifesting generators, you have a defined sacral, and one of your motor centers has a defined throat. So that's how you end up having a generator and a manifester have a baby, and you birth the man gen. So a lot of people wish that they were man gens, are jealous of man gens, and they're amazing. However, there's a lot going on with manifesting generators, and you kind of get like the best of both worlds, but also some of the shadow aspects. And I would say, again, generators, more people-oriented, manifesting generators, more lone wolves. So you'll start to notice when you show up in certain ways. The best way to describe I would say the difference between a man gen and a generator is generators have a stair-step learning curve. We're actually here to create mastery, the generator and generator family. So I will learn something and I'll excel at it. And then I plateau. So plateaus are actually so supportive for both manifesting generators and generators. But of course, we don't like to sit still. We don't like to wait. We don't like to be patient. So we feel like we're dying, when really this is what we need to go inward to then birth the next evolution of our mastery. Manifesting generators are more like an escalator. You all just go and you make mistakes and you don't ask permission and you just do it. And then guess what? You come back and refine. Then you go, then you come back and refine, then you go, then you come back and refine. So you and I may start the same project at the same time. And I may be like, oh my gosh, where did she go? She's all the way up here. And I'm just going and doing my thing. And then you'll notice we'll start to kind of even out, because I just am a little bit more conservative and like, okay, I really want to create this mastery first. And I really want to learn, where you're learning actually through mistakes. Mistakes are literally like, if we can rewrite the word mistake into like guideposts as to what the breadcrumbs of the universe, manifesting generators would just be, I mean, you guys are unstoppable, but the programming around, a lot of times manifesting generator children are told you're too much, you need to slow down, you need to focus on one thing, which is actually the worst thing that we can do, because you thrive in fast-paced environments, working on multiple projects at any given time. So if anyone tells you like, only pick one thing, for a manifesting generator, that's not sustainable for you. You actually thrive with multiple balls in the air when you're feeling aligned, when you're energetically in tune.
Yeah, I love that. And it's true. So a lot of the series is how we show up in life, in the boardroom, and in the bedroom, right? And all of that is true in all of those areas that you just shared. So the variety component And also ever wanting to evolve, right, and master, but not stopping until I master. So I love that visual that you painted with the stairs and the escalator.
Yeah, that I feel like that it just makes so much sense to me, especially because I have a lot of manifesting generator friends. And what did I do? I used to get in comparison. And now it's like you just start to see and witness and notice how we all show up. And then that's why in teams, especially if you work with a team, knowing the type of your team is so critical and so helpful. Because again, we don't make anyone wrong for when they don't ask permission or when they like to work alone, or right. And then we start to be able to kind of be proactive in, okay, let's like, okay, how can we have all of this work together? Like, how can we all work in synergy for this, you know, project to move through completion?
Love that. Awesome.
Yeah.
What's the next type? Ooh, projectors. I like our guide.
I love projectors. I do have a best friend. He's a male. He's a projector. I find it's so, I don't want to say it's easy to spot. I'm generally pretty good with spotting most of the types, but projectors are like, there's just this stoic energy, not a defined sacral. So again, just very ebbs and flows with energy. Projectors are usually like late bloomers. So lots of burnout, generally in the 30s is when we like, they do not thrive in corporate environments. And they're really here to guide and lead. And so there's some presidents that are projectors, but really here to be mentors, share wisdom, and manage. So like really, really good managers, really good with people. They're not the loudest in the room, but when they speak, people listen and really just have this like rounded presence, but again, require a lot of rest, lots of ebbs and flows, from an energetic standpoint. So again, not meant to here to perform the tasks and to do the thing, really meant to share wisdom and have, you know, for example, share wisdom about a passion project, and then the generators and the manifesting generators will execute.
Yeah.
So a manifester would be like the visionary, right? Like has, you know, creates the idea. And then the projector is really the director of this film, right? The one that's really expressing and sharing wisdom and experience to manage the team. And the manifesting generators and the generators are the ones that are like going to town with the energy, that sustainable sacral, and, you know, bringing that through fruition.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. And our last ones are reflectors.
Reflectors. Yeah. There's not very many reflectors in the world. There's a lot of
it was like 1%. Is that about what you understand?
Yeah, I have not met a reflector. I know that they exist. But they're really here to be like karmic mirrors. Like they're really here to like be in community and really here to reflect to us what we're creating. So it's just such a beautiful, like they're really a karmic mirror. They're also kind of here to like be the scrubbers of the world. Reflectors really need to feel safe, in community. And so I would say just environment, because you take on other people's energy, right? So like lots of open energetic centers. So when we're talking defined and undefined, I just want to clarify as you all start to look up your charts. Yeah. A defined center is colored in, and an undefined center is, and so defined also means closed and undefined also means open. Reflectors are literally just open canvases and here to just take on the energy of others. But what's beautiful is they're able to actually expand that out. They're actually able to take that in. So when they're in a safe environment, when they're in an environment that's expansive and thriving, they're actually able to take that in and expand it tenfold, which is a really beautiful thing.
Wow. I love it. Okay. If you, I'm going to put you on the spot. If you had to think of like one word to describe each one,
Mm.
How would you do that? So let's go through manifester. What word comes to mind?
Mm. I would just say creator.
Awesome. I love it. For me, it's inspirational.
Mm.
That's just what comes to mind.
Yeah.
I love creator. How about generator?
I wanted to say the doer. I'm like using verbs. I'm keeping it in layman's
Mine
terms.
was productive.
Yeah.
Productive.
You're using adjectives. I'm using verbs. Beautiful.
That's perfect. Okay. So doer. Doer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If I wasn't on the
Creator,
spot, I'm sure.
doer. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, is there
Manny Jen.
more multi-passionate doer?
I like that. Yes, I am. One coach that I heard speak on it said magnetic, and I really gravitated towards that. So I'll keep that word. It just didn't come from me, but I'll keep that word. Projector.
Yeah.
Projector.
Advisor.
Yeah, I like it. Guide, leader for me.
Yeah.
And then reflector.
What came through for manifestor also is innovator.
And ooh, I like that one. I like that for sure. Yeah, because they're the ones that are getting the divine download. Reflector?
I would say evaluator, because they're really here to reflect back what's happening in the collective. So I would say an evaluator. That wasn't too shabby.
No, it wasn't too hard. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to put her on the spot.
Although doer, because there is with generators and manifesting generators, like because we have this energy, a lot of times we do like we're doing things because it's what society has imprinted on us. And so sometimes like a negative connotation, so just know, like, when we feel alive, we love to do, right? Like, it's like when we show up as who we are, then the doing is just part of why we're here. Right. So, it's like changing our relationship. If you get a little triggered or like, oh, I don't want to keep doing, it just means that you're doing things that aren't in alignment. So that's just feedback.
I also think of, so many words come to mind, but like, you are the executor, you get shit done. Which a lot of people lack follow through, right? That's why their businesses aren't moving forward. It's not that your idea isn't great. It's not that you weren't meant to be here. And this is what I love about putting together teams. Learning for me, human design. I used to run a multi-million-dollar public company, and I could see now, unbeknownst to me, what the human design was, but how you could put together a team powerfully. If you know that, for example, you're a manifestor, you need a Manny Gen and a generator on your team, right? Your generator would be your VA. Your Manny Gen would be like your OBM, your overseer, the one that translates the vision to the strategy. And your generator executes that. And that's all of those are needed. If you are a generator, you need the manifestor, you need the Manny Gen, who might be your copywriter, right? Who can take, what you want to create in the world and actually give you like the inspiration of how to put that out there and how the words on how to tap into your ideal client. So I love the further I get into this, and I love the way that you described each of the energy types. For me, the way that you describe reflectors today, I think magnifier, I think like mirror, like when you describe the energy coming in and then magnifying it out, that's kind of what came through for me. I love it.
Yeah, they're like sponge. They're like the sponges of the world. And so that's why it's beautiful, because when they're in an expanded state and in an environment that's really thriving, like that is part of the ripple of the healing of the collective. So we're going to change doer to executor. You use the word executor for like, let's do that. That feels good. I'm like, oh yeah, executor.
Get shit done. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. All right. You use the word sovereign, and I've heard that a lot. I get it in context, and I'd love to know, what does that mean? Sovereignty, to reclaim what does that mean?
To me, it's like inner authority. To me, it's reclaiming our autonomy of self
Got it.
and recognizing that that is the true state, right? Like is freedom, like is that freedom to show up as self, to show up in our unique gifts, right? To be able to self-express and know that there is no judgment from other, right? Because what I know to be true is there is no other, like, right? Like if I see something in someone else, whether it's shadow or light, it must live in me too, because if not, I wouldn't be able to see it. And so really just coming from this place of we are our highest authority, like us individually. And there's not any book, like even human design, like there's no crutch or tool or product or program or anything outside of us that really has an authority over us once we start to tap into our uniqueness and the truth of who we are. So it's really about coming back to self first. And to me, sovereignty is owning that, because it's not always easy when we start to wake up in this way, right? Because we're modeled, and the majority of the world is choosing suffering and is choosing to look outside of self for the answers. And so it is, to me, a revolutionary act to really start to put that sovereign stake in the ground, which again is, I am my highest authority, not what the social media is telling me, not what my parents are telling me, not what my coach is telling me. And that, honestly, I could say is probably what I've really learned to be true is nobody is going to be able to do it for me, right? Like not my coach, right? Like all of the what's the word? Like I would put these like this external baggage on others, like, can you just figure it out for me? But it was because I was burnt out, right? Because I wasn't listening. So I'm really excited to be alive during this time, because I'm seeing people are finally like, oh, exploring this and getting curious.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the keys of why I created this experience for all of you out there is, yes, that we have guides and we have coaches, we have therapists that support us, but ultimately you get to choose your path, and you get to take the strategy or take the tip that they gave you and apply it to your life in a way that is true for you. So I love that you just said that. And with that, I'd love to see, what are 3 things you can leave the audience with to further their own journey?
Well, I would say go to mybodygraph.com and just start to explore, like really just getting from that state of curiosity, because I really feel like what holds us back as a society is not being curious, because when we're not curious, we're in judgment and control. And so really just leaning into curiosity. The second piece is honestly deep belly breathing. I know this isn't necessarily necessarily tied, but if you want to be able to listen more, closing your eyes, I found creating presence in the quickest way is closing our eyes, because our eyes are constantly taking in so much information and constantly creating, is this safe? Is that not safe? And then the deep belly breaths, connecting to the parasympathetic nervous system, really turning off the mind and letting the body talk. 93% of communication is nonverbal, right? And so this just starting to notice, how am I breathing? Because what happens when we're breathing up here is we're actually in fight, flight, or freeze. And so we're making decisions from our body and mind thinking that we're unsafe. And so of course, we're going to create more of that. So I would say the second piece is really just start tuning into the body and simply start breathing.
Yeah. Also leads to beautiful orgasms. But yes, when you're in that space, not just sitting, but when you're in that space. Go ahead.
And how are we modeled? We're modeled to breathe like that.
Sex is a lot of that short breath, and actually the full body orgasm comes when you can, and it's what you just said. You are connecting to that parasympathetic nervous system. You're slowing down. You're becoming present, one with your body. And as you roll that breath through all the way down to your sacral energy center and breathe it back out, the ripples of that, you can achieve a really beautiful orgasm. So wasn't the intention of this episode, but the way you describe that absolutely resonates with me in that sense.
Absolutely. It's the same thing with labor. It's the same thing with sex. It's the same thing with how we're showing up in the world. We're just not taught. We're not taught to breathe like that. So if you want to connect to the present moment, or the breath, and when we're in the present moment, we're connected to the truth of who we are. So I would say that would be my next piece is really letting go of the self beat up, right? Like really owning our wholeness, really owning that we are unique. We came into this world with our energetic blueprint. We came into this world as souls having a human experience. We signed up for parenting and conditioning and schooling and indoctrination and all of the things so that we could then come back to self in our adult years. And that's what so many of us are doing. And so there's no comparison about if you're in your 30s, your 40s, your 70s, or 80s, it doesn't matter. It's all divinely orchestrated. And the more that we can let go of the self beat up and just be in curiosity. So the first piece is just get curious with your body graph, just start to explore your type, even your family's type. The second is starting to connect to the breath. Start to listen to what feels like truth and what does not feel like truth in the body. And the third piece is notice the conversation with your mind and the comparison and the, I wish I was further along, and feeling like you're behind. And just start to change that. Just start to be like, okay, mind, thank you, but I'm actually going to choose this. And you'll start to notice, you'll be able to tune in a lot more to self and enjoy things a lot more.
I love it. Thank you so much. Those were super clear and easy to do. How can the audience, I know this resonated for several people out there. How can they connect with you and deepen their journey with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have a free gift. It's on my website, which I have the direct link. It's actually called Your Awakened Woman Unique Archetype. And what I do is I actually created an assessment for you to tune into what you believe your type is based on the questions that I ask. And then sometimes it's actually not in alignment with your actual body graph, just simply because you're living out of alignment. And then I start to showcase ways to embody and come back to self. So if that interests you and you want to explore on a curious level, I know that you'll be able to share that link. I do have a private Facebook community. It's where I hang out the most of 1,000 women all over the world, called the Awakened Woman Collective. And that's where I give free mini trainings, and a lot of women show up that way. My website is lindsaymartinellis.com, which I know you'll put the spelling in there. And then my email is lindsay@lindsaymartinellis.com. So if any questions come through and you just want to connect, I am happy to support you. And I think I think you'll have a lot of fun with the quiz if you're getting curious.
Yeah, I love quizzes. Awesome. Lindsay, thank you so much for being so open with us, being generous with your gift, and giving people kind of a high level of where to start. And I love that we're starting with the energy type, because there's so much to learn even under that umbrella alone. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're so welcome. Yeah. Enjoy, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.